Hey, welcome to Office Hours. My name is mwilder. I'm going to wait a second to see if anybody's going to jump in to the chat, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about the protocol ecosystem, talk a little bit about the organizational structure, the DAO 2.0 structure, and then um, I will open it up to just general questions. So let's just give it one more minute. And if nobody else jumps in, then I'll just do like a 5 minute kind of presentation. And then we can just get right into just talking about whatever you want to talk about. Also, if I do end up talking about something that you want to ask about, you can also just drop a question in the questions channel, and I'll read through those while I'm talking. I'll start by just talking a little bit about my background. So, um, my handle is mwilder. I generally people just call me Wilder, and I have worked as a mod. Um, I got in to do Olympus forks about oh around a year ago, and I got an opportunity to volunteer as a content writer with marketing. I found pretty quickly that there's not a lot of people that want to do focus on copywriting. So um, that's going to be an area that I lead um, here in DeFIRE is content editing. I do have my hands in a couple of other areas with the marketing, branding, um, and have been in on some of the meetings about tokenomics and policy. So one of the things I learned when I was working on the Olympus fork kind of projects is that I kind of had some ideas that were good ideas, I thought, for modification of that system. And then when I found a connection to the founders here at DeFIRE, I found out that we all kind of had similar ideas, and so it's kind of been just a natural fit for me to come into the ecosystem here, and so I'm super excited to talk about what we're trying to do. So DeFire is kind of an interwoven um, system of protocols, and they're all supposed to work off of each other um, and create a situation where you're building stability, you're building trust, you're creating opportunities for um, different risk adjusted asset classes that can all be um, utilized in one protocol system. Um, so you can do a lot of investing under one kind of umbrella. And also, we think that will be something that translates well to bringing in people who are, maybe not too versed in some of the more intricate ways of some of the more degen plays in DeFi and are just trying to dip a toe in. Maybe they've already, invested in layer one tokens and are just like learning how to get their MetaMask set up and go cross chain. So we're working on strategies to bring in more people into the space. We think that's kind of where things need to go in the future. We need better transparency, better stability, um, and so that's kind of why we chose the protocol ideas that we have grouped together. So to begin with, the Spark protocol is a Seigniorage product, but it is modified from what everyone's doing with Tomb Forks right now. And there are some people that are kind of innovating on the Tomb model. For instance, 3Ohm created a DAO with a protocol owned liquidity pool, and it's got its own smart contract that helps keep the peg on the Phantom network. And so, we'll probably implement a contract similar to that. And then our main token for the share, the DeFIRE token, is going to have utility across all of the protocols. And we think that that's going to be a really big thing, because if you have invested in any other projects where they branched out, like, so for instance, like if you were in Popsicle Finance and then, branched out, and then you had Wonderland and Abracadabra, in some of these other forks, there was a situation where people invested in the original protocol, and then some of the treasury got used to fund the new project, but then there was two different governance tokens. So then you had, your original tokens that you were investing in, and then the new protocol had its own governance token. And so it created a kind of split where you've got two different discords. Potentially you've got different motivations behind the different governance tokens. And at least in the protocol that I was highly involved in, it created kind of a conflict of interest in terms of, if one of them is a protocol that's, trying to build, the original OM idea of having a reserve currency, but then the other protocol is a lending protocol, and you're, collecting fees off of liquidations and off of things that, have different kind of different motivators. It's just it becomes confusing, and it can kind of cause chaos with investor sentiment. And obviously with all of the OM protocols that came on last year, investor sentiment is huge. It's like the OM model is like an amplifier. If you liked what happened on the front end, there's huge run ups and parabolic runs, and then huge crashes. But in the long run, obviously, even the people who are still going at it, it's just the investor sentiment has been destroyed, and even Olympus itself is trying to retool right now. So, with our initial protocol, we're trying to build in some measures that are going to prevent some of the issues that happen with front running, with arbitrage, all of the things that tend to scare people and cause these kinds of like huge crashes and booms and busts, and the things flame out right away. And also, we're trying to have a plan for rolling out the other aspects of the protocol. If you're going to bootstrap a lot of liquidity through a seigniorage fork or through an OM fork or whatever kind of a protocol that you're building off of the original tech, I think it's important that you know what you want to use the money for. And I think that's a big topic right now that you see a lot of people on Twitter talking about, and some of the major influencers in DeFi space. And so that's why we are starting by talking about three very specific ideas for protocols that we want to work off of each other, and that will give utility to our main token, the DeFIRE token. So the DeFIRE token is unique in that it will be the only governance token. When you lock the DeFIRE token, it'll be just like if you locked the Curve token and got a V Curve, receipt token, or if you are in the Phantom network and you use Liquid Driver or Beethoven X, you lock the token for a couple of weeks up to a couple of years. I believe we're going to start at like a week and then go up from there. And the longer you lock, the will affect your rewards rate. And all of the protocols, as they're developed, the fees will be funneled back into the pool for the governance DeFIRE token. So there's some built-in, it makes it attractive to hold that long term. And because the DeFIRE token also doubles as a share token, you're creating a certain level of stability in the price of the share token, because most likely some people are going to want to have that governance rights. Um, the highest level of payback in terms of any of the tokens in the overall ecosystem will eventually be the DeFIRE token, and then with that plus the efforts to try to keep the peg, will we believe give us a good place to start off um, the ecosystem. And then the second protocol will be similar to some of the other liquidity protocols, in that it will be pooling together different assets. But unlike the other protocols, the unique tech will be that we're building these containers, and we will be creating different risk classes, and we'll be able to people will be able to come in and either choose preset um, containers, or they'll be able to build containers, and there will also be some analytics that will tell you the performance of the containers, so you'll be able to make informed decisions. And um, this will be kind of a new class of um, of investment tools, so that you can have your moderate and high risk plays. You can also have some low risk plays. Some things built off stables, some things that are all of the same class, like L1s tokens, and it'll eventually be a cross chain kind of a thing. So we think there's a huge opportunity there, and we're already working on building that while we're in the process of pre-launch for the Spark protocol. And then the last protocol will be the Ignite protocol, which will be a lending protocol similar to Alchemix, and that you will be able to lend off of your future potential yield on whatever the asset is that you're going to be um, depositing. But you'll also be able to use your receipt token for whatever container you use in the Blaze program. So you'll be able to maintain your container in the Blaze program, and also be able to borrow based off of um, the potential yield on that asset container. So that's a really, really short, although I know I've already gone quite a bit of time, um, explanation of that. And then as far as how the protocol is going to work in terms of the team. So again, everyone that is on the founding team, myself, and the majority of the people that are working as contributors right now, have all had experiences with protocols where the transparency was just nowhere near what it was advertised to be when we got into it. And DeFi moves so fast, it's not necessarily um, throwing shade on anyone, but there is some. I mean, there's just undeniably some situations where there's been negligence. Um, out, basically people just not trying to follow through on what they said they were going to do, or they are genuinely they meant well, and then it just wasn't a lot of forethought. It's like, okay, well, let's get the tech out there, let's get the treasury pumped up, and then they're scrambling to figure out what to do, and that's I mean, you can see that everywhere. Um, and So the original DAO concept was listed on a bunch of different forks, but the number of forks that actually tried to have real communication, lots of different tools for proposals, voting, giving the real power to shape the overall project, is very limited. There's not a lot of them. So you know you might have somebody that called themselves a DAO, and it was basically the devs had total access. Um, and there was no way for anybody to vote. And then, there's others where there was an actual operation where people were actively involved in creating proposals. Those proposals went through a deliberation process, made it to vote. There's a full spectrum there, but there's a whole lot of them where people were promised that they would you know have some community input into the future of the project, and then that just all fell flat. So in the DAO 1.0 model, you're starting off with your founding team. They create, there's moderators, there's some trusted, contributors that come in, but all of the decision making is kind of funneled down from the leadership at the top, and that's just kind of it. It just stays that way. It never really evolves. In DAO 2.0, the idea is to get the protocol off and running, have be building out a team of contributors around different skill sets, and right away you are as soon as possible giving voting power to the DAO to just make the basic decisions of, do we want to launch, um, do we want to approve some DAO allocation funds for the payment of contributors, and what's let's approve like the overall structure of how that's going to work. So, the idea is to like decentralize that as soon as possible. And so the founding team is always going to have you know, a, a place to be, the public facing voice, and, be strong leadership. But eventually they will all be working within their primary skill sets within those working groups of contributors, who then just become, they're more working in parallel. They're not, it's not a top down system in the same way. Everyone just kind of eventually dissolves into their respective operating groups. They all have their own autonomy about making decisions within that, whether that's being, the engineering, or it has to do with the marketing, it has to do with the policy. There'll be separate groups of people that are um, that are just focused on doing those things, and there will be cross communication, but those people will have some autonomy about making those decisions, and then having it approved by the overall community of investors. So I spent probably way too long talking about that, and it looks like it's just a couple of us hanging out. So, um, Carlos, if you want to jump in, I'm happy to give you the floor to ask a question. Um, and I did see your question in the questions um, thread. Yeah, it's a good question. I definitely think the participation is going to, play into um, weighting how we dole out whitelists. I'm not exactly sure how that will be weighted for in being involved in the office hours chat, but we are recording this, and so we have a record of you being here, and Phoenix is here too, so he can speak to that as well if he wants to. Um, yeah, if anybody wants to, request to come up, just let me know, and if not, I'll kind of keep just kind of going into a little bit more detail. Um, so I will, there's a couple of things going on that we can talk, that will sort of dovetail off of Carlos's question about the whitelist. The whitelist contests are, really we're just still in phase one. Um, so currently we have a contest going. You can see the details about it in the announcements channel. Um, Initially, we've been making the push to get over 500 members, which we did 2 days ago. So we're doing awesome so far, I think, with our adoption rate. And so I'm pretty excited about that, honestly. I think that, just getting to launch with, and having already the number of people who are involved and interested in spreading um, what we have going on to their friends is great. I think we're doing a great job there, and I'm really excited to keep it going. Um, Yeah, so good question. So Shalom Julian asks, do you see any issue with the whole leverage and mass liquidations? No. I mean, um, the whole idea with alchemics is that there's definitely gonna be a lot of options offered that are lower risk for liquidation. I'm not saying that we won't have any options for leveraging where someone could get into that situation, but we're certainly not trying to create a model kind of like a la abracadabra where you can really loop up the leverage. I mean, that's definitely not the encouragement that we're doing there. I mean, I think that it's just we have all of these new kinds of assets that we're going to be offering, and so like for instance, some of the containers in the Blaze protocol will have a pretty low level of risk, and so if you're just leveraging your potential yield on something like that, I think you know you're gonna benefit from that. I think it's gonna help build the liquidity of the overall ecosystem, and I think it's just it's a good product. So within our own ecosystem and the way that we plan on building, I think it's having that lending platform is going to work well. Just waiting. I can see you're typing a question. Yeah, really good point. Yeah. So something I didn't touch on. So there's an aspect if you read the original article, actually the most recent article, at the end we kind of tease the idea of the DeFIRE Academy, and that sounds pretty grandiose, but really what it is we really want to educate our investors really well. Um, and so eventually, when that does include normies, um, we're going to try to make sure that not only do they know what the protocol is, how it operates, but then like in different market environments, be putting out information about like strategies. Making sure that people understand, what the capabilities of the different protocols are, so that they can make those decisions themselves about how to adjust, and not be caught in situations. We're definitely not. In the article that we wrote last about transparency, you know, I mentioned that people get caught up when they're emotionally invested in the idea of diamond handing something, and we want to build real confidence, not just kind of perceived confidence in the overall ecosystem, and that involves having confidence that our investors are given full, complete understanding of how the protocol operates. Like, for instance, the whole idea of backing price in ohm forks. Clearly that was a huge, huge problem, and it doesn't even have to be about whether or not they were being honest about whether they were gonna, honor um, the value of people's investments. It just comes down to do people even know what they're doing? I mean, it was you shoot yourself in the foot if you give people um, if you allow people to believe something that's not true, and then their confidence is shaken. Market in uh, in DeFi, investor sentiment is so huge. Community or community around investment is a huge part of what makes DeFi valuable, and it's a very important thing to educate people, to spend a lot of time on communication, on creating documents. I mean, I think that for all of the founders and myself, like that's a huge aspect of what we're trying to do right now is put out really quality content that's easy to understand, um, and and just keep it going all the time so that there's constantly more granular level of detail about what the risks are, what the opportunities are, and making sure that when we do get to the point where it's people that are brand new to the whole DeFi ecosystem, that it's not creating a potential big problem. Yeah, yeah, good, yeah. No, I, I'm involved in this project because I really believe that there's a lot of people that are on the same page, um, about what they want to see happen in DeFi, and you don't necessarily have to have some crazy, like nobody's ever thought of this tech idea in order to create real change and move the whole community forward, moving DeFi forward. It doesn't have to be about, some way of leveraging or of dividing assets in a way that's never been done before. That's certainly part of it, but another big part that no one really is all that focused on is just um, creating some sort of stability in the market. You know, um, and that really, I mean, can you imagine investing in Bitcoin in 2010? What resources do you have? Basically, you're taking a flyer on something like that. Like no Discord, hardly any social media. Now we have all of this stuff, and that's great. But for all of the stuff that gets put out, how much of it is actually quality content? How much of it can you actually really trust? And so it's going to be a challenge. Like, how do you differentiate yourself from people that run YouTube channels, or, even just like articles written that are supposedly for um, educational content? It gets outdated so quickly. How do you how do you manage all of that? I'm definitely motivated to try and come up with a way of um, collating all of the best information for the DeFire Academy, and part of that will just be having a really easily searchable library of things that are being archived when they get too old, constantly bringing in new material, so that we're kind of like crowdsourcing all of this stuff. You know, we're never going to be, we're not an educator, we're an investment opportunity. But nonetheless, I mean, it's important for protocols to be involved in education, because it's just, it's part of the health of the part of the health of the investment class. So, our immediate goal with DeFire Academy is to just create like infographics that break things down in terms of like how does a DeFi token work, how does a Spark token work, how would it be different from a Tune fork, how would you invest in an expansion versus a contraction period, what would be best for the protocol, what would be best for yourself as an investor based off of what your um, you know where you're at in your investment cycle. Um, just trying to create as much comprehensive communication around that stuff as possible. So I'm excited. I think there's a real opportunity there. We're certainly not interested in mission creep and overextending ourselves into something that's not going to bring immediate benefit to our investors. But like if part of our mission is to onboard people that are otherwise unaware or intimidated by getting into decentralized finance, then that should be part of it. Because eventually that probably, if we're successful, that will tell other people that they need to get in on it, and you'll start seeing other protocols adopting some of those tactics. So we think we're on the right track with that. say. All right, so I'm going to go back to talking about opportunities. So today, the team put out another call for contributors. So the Dow 2.0 model definitely is more human resource intensive, more people contributing on different areas. So we're definitely looking for people in all areas to come in and help us out. And so we have different methods of getting involved. You can, if you are looking to, if you just wanted to work in DeFi, um, then you can just say, hey, I would like to just be able to do this, and fill out the application, give us your, area of your concentration of your skill set and some background, and then, one of the team will get a hold of you and get you linked up. And it at this point it can be a pretty casual rolling start where you get a chance to feel it out. It's not a you know there's not the kind of commitment that you would have necessarily um, just going into a job interview. But nonetheless, you do have the opportunity potentially, if it's a good fit for you, to become that this becomes something that's your main source of you know it's just what you do. Because we're not just growing one protocol, we're growing three different protocols, and then after that we will be looking at creating a launch pad where people can bring their ideas, um, if they're you know up and coming developers that need a place to you know pitch their ideas. Then we have also talked about doing some things with NFTs, um, not just NFTs for the novelty, but no NFTs with actual utility, potentially NFTs that could be used for boosting or other things within the ecosystem. So that's like just an example of an area that we could extend the project. Um, so there's a lot of opportunities there, and you think about like the scope of all of that, and there's definitely going to be a need for a lot of people to be involved. Um, so then on the other side, there's what the Spark channel. So if you just want to do something because you got some time, or you're interested in like what would it be like to do help write something, or maybe you see an opportunity and you don't see anybody taking advantage of it in terms of like social media, or some sort of connection that you see out there in the DeFi world. Then you can just say, hey, I have a very specific idea. you know we have the bounties channel where there are things that the contributor or that the team needs, and you can also look there and see if you have the skill set to take something on. So there's different levels of involvement that you can choose for yourself. And so I invite anybody who has the interest to get a hold of one of the founding team or myself, um, and we'll get you linked up, and you can kind of just sit in and figure out where you fit into the team. Okay. Let's see. Questions. Yes. Okay. So Carlos asks if we've thought about implementing a tutor program. Um, we definitely have. So, I'm in the process of writing the next article about DeFire Academy. So this is kind of alpha at this point. Um, I think that's the hard. Education is actually pretty hard, and uh, to give you a little bit more background myself, I did teach literature on the college level um, earlier in my career, so I do have a little bit of an idea of the difficulty of implementing a new curriculum, especially for something where there's not, you're not just teaching basics. You're teaching something that's still being invented. And so I think that's like something that really needs to be done thoughtfully, so that because I mean, trying to get people together on on all different time zones and then build a curriculum, figure out um, what's actually going to have value and doing it in a way that's timely. It's going to take some time to build that, but we definitely want to do something in the future, or we'd like to, where we have some sort of a voice channel and there's some sort of a built-in curriculum. I'm not sure if that's something pre-recorded that people didn't watch, and then have some ability to like respond to questions that are preset. Like some sort of a quiz curriculum quiz or something like that that gives different ways of learning. But there's some different ideas around that being thrown out there. So, in terms of like having somebody as a designated tutor who's just around for education, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that it really just depends on, we're going to adapt to whatever comes our way. So if somebody is already, I've seen people that do that as something that they kind of, and obviously, that's something that you do as well. So, Carlos, if you want to shoot me a DM and let me know, um, I'm happy to talk to you about that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, yeah. My question may have been confusing. I mean, help to create the DeFIRE community on Discord to create channels that focus on different interests that have tutors who manage the channel to help with discussion in Discord. Yeah. I mean, I think I, I don't know if Phoenix has an experience with this. I don't have any experience with having people designated as tutors, although I definitely, I think that we could have moderators that with um, areas of specific areas of expertise. Um, yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely think that we're going to try and do a lot around voice channel stuff as well. And yeah, we can have specific threads designated to different topics and have people available in those channels to discuss that stuff. Um, yeah, I think that sounds like a great idea. I'm not, I think I think at this point we probably have to stick with people who are generalists in DeFi, and then hopefully eventually we can kind of bring on people that are, specifically interested in the fire movement and have that as well, and then eventually, kind of specialize a little bit more as we get a little bit bigger. Sure, cool. Yeah, I'm happy to. I mean, we definitely want to like figure out what we don't know about that's out there. So I mean, it sounds like a cool thing, um, and we can figure out how we can do it with our own twist here, for sure. Yeah, that's awesome. That sounds awesome. Um, I mean, um, that's part of what we want to do in terms of like being able to help people figure out, what how like you're saying, return models. Yeah, it's huge. Like just having communication about what are their options would be hugely helpful. I can see how that would. I can see how Midas would want to focus on that stuff, um, and especially for people who are newer, who have no idea, they have no experience. I mean, most people in DeFi have experience with getting wrecked, so they've learned through negative example. I don't think we want to bring people who are used to seeing a 10% return for the year with relatively little volatility into a situation where they're having all kinds of uh, super scary experiences. So, Exactly. Yeah. So, in terms of how to bridge, where to swap, one of the things that I think is really good about being on Polygon, I know everyone's got their, favorite chain that they're on, but Polygon is it's pretty easy to get from a centralized exchange, and you can go straight to Polygon mainnet. So onboarding is going to be a lot easier than the chains that are fast, but you can't get your L1 token directly into your wallet to immediately go and then buy whatever the investment asset is that you're trying to get. And so luckily there are some of that stuff out there already in terms of videos. We're definitely going to collate all of the best stuff we can find about that stuff, um, and have a very easily searchable platform um, that someone can just click on, DeFIRE Academy, go into that and find it, answer quickly. And then, of course, like what you're suggesting with the in-person tutoring is also like hugely important in terms of like, I've got a question, and people that have the TLDR mindset, you know, um, are not going to go and search. So it's good to have both available. And I think that like um, we're starting with a team that already has a huge emphasis on operating that way. Like all of us kind of are willing to get into the Discord. Uh, yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, at this point, the chain that we're launching on is Polygon. There's gonna be cross chain capability, but at the moment, the other thing that's like so I mean, I understand. Everyone's got um, there's so many different things that you can speak about when you're just talking about what the pluses and minuses of different platforms. I think the thing that I see as a benefit on Polygon, and that has nothing to do with gas fees or the speed or anything about that. Um, I mean, we're open to like, for instance, if there's some new chain out there that's offering like $500 million to develop a protocol, or I'm exaggerating, but I mean, of course we're not like against you know anything, but at the moment, like um, well, I think that's also an opportunity. So I think that yeah, there's not a lot of great DeFi projects on Polygon. So you can see that as a negative, but you can also see that as an opportunity. There's an empty void there. And I do think that even though DeFi isn't particularly strong on Polygon, Metaverse is like hugely strong on Polygon with Blocktopia, and what's the name of the one that has the Pegasus horses is gamified. Um, hey, thanks for coming in. I really appreciate you jumping in, Carlos. Looking forward to talking to you in the future, man. Um, so yeah, I think like the thing is that like for instance with the Blaze protocol with the asset containers, right? So like that's going to provide so many opportunities to partner with not just protocols in DeFi, but things that are either in the gamification world, metaverse. I think that like we can bring in containers of different kinds of asset classes, and so I think we can potentially draw people um, from other areas of crypto, um, to maybe not to just like go all in on DeFi, but definitely, if they are, have some sort of a token that they're using that doesn't have any, that they're not able to get any additional yield off of, like for instance, Block or some of those other things in the metaverse, if we can create some sort of opportunity for them, I think that's in a whole other, group of people that we can potentially bring in. And so, yeah, I mean, obviously, the other thing is like, for instance, Phantom. Phantom is now like, I mean, last night gas fees were, and like I had a transaction that failed. It was my first time having a transaction drop. Um, like I think that there's gonna be a musical chairs thing that happens here in the next couple of years where like, you know, Avalanche was ahead of Phantom. Now Phantom is like gonna be the, like the hot commodity for this upcoming year, I think, Um, Arbitrum, obviously, and Moon River, and there's all of these different chains, and then like you've got the bigger guys like Solana and other places. Like who knows? But I think that Polygon has it has some opportunities for sure. It is relatively cheap. Polygon has like an enormous like their overall the amount of tokens that they have, their liquidity is already pretty high. Um, the way that their nodes work is not anywhere like Phantom or so um, it's just totally different, and I appreciate that sometimes things can get slow on Polygon and it could be annoying, but I think in terms of just like overall the larger opportunity for wealth creation, I think this is not necessarily a bad chain to be on. So, but like I said, like everyone on the team is like really open to talking about that. If you want to get in on the policy channel and have a conversation, like we're super open. Let's see, what else can I? We have about 10 minutes left. Um, so I'm just looking through what else I need to cover. Uh, who's still here? Phoenix. If you think I'm recording this, so if you think of something that I should mention, just drop it in the questions channel. Let's see. Let's see. I mentioned volunteering, contributing. So we still have some other opportunities for whitelist, and that got broken down into a little bit more detail yesterday. There's a new announcement about there's upcoming contests that are going to be happening after we close the initial whitelist contest for invites. There'll be another invite contest, um, and then let's see. So there's two invite campaigns. Then we're going to do some Twitter, try to expand our social media reach. So there'll be some campaigns around Twitter. And then we're going to be doing a knowledge test. So that'll be part of the idea of making sure that all of our community is really well versed in what we're trying to do and how the program works or the project works before we launch. And so based off of what aspects you contribute to within those different contests, will give you an opportunity to get on the early bird part of the pre-sale, which will be done in rounds where the first round starts at a $500 cap and then increases over time to $8,000. And then we'll do our general pre-sale. So so some people will have gotten whitelist roles that will make them eligible for those first rounds, and then people who got a general whitelist role but didn't do quite as much participation will then get an opportunity once those initial people get in on the pre-sale to get in and start um, getting their allocations of DeFIRE and Spark, which are the two main tokens for the Senior Age Project Spark protocol. Let's see. Um, Okay. So part of the contest right now um, is the invite contest. The higher up you are in the invite contest, the more you will be, the more you could potentially earn. We have a pool of 10 DeFire that we're going to be giving away, and so it'll be proportional to your number of invites. So far, I can't remember. I think we the other day we had already had at least four DeFire that were available. So the more invites that are collected, the larger the pool of rewards that'll be shared. So that right now I know it's already past four DeFire. It can go up to 10 DeFire. So even if you have already earned a spot for the whitelist, or if somebody's like one of the top contributors, they can still improve their overall portion of that pool by continuing to bring in more people. So there's definitely a lot of reason for continuing to contribute. And yeah, how far are we from launch? We're a few weeks away. There's a couple of things that we're still working on to make sure that the pre-sale um, goes off really smoothly. So the engineering team is working on all of that stuff with exactly, you know, the token that you'll be receiving and how that's all going to work once the actual launch happens in terms of like then staking it, farming. Um, it's basically all we know what we know where that's how that's going to work out for the most part, but there's just a couple of details we're still working through, and the UI for the pre-sale, they're still working on the interface. So yes, so Spark is the senior protocol, and so Spark is also uh, our is our token that's pegged to Matic. Assuming that we're launching on Polygon, it'll be pegged to Matic. So then you'll be able to farm Spark Matic LP, and then the DeFire token. We'll have to speak more in the future about the DeFire token. So the DeFire token is our share token. Um, you can also farm DeFire Matic, um, and then there'll be a boardroom um, for staking DeFire. So DeFire is interesting because you can stake it, you can farm it, and then if you want to lock it up to get the GDFire token, then you can do that as well. So the DeFire that you buy in the presale potentially, like if you continue to accumulate DeFire when we um, initiate the locking portion of the protocol where you can lock the DeFire to get GDFire, then you'll be able to receive fees for GDFire, collecting from protocol fees, um, which should end up being pretty juicy in the long run. We think that that's going to be like the kingmaker token in the long run, and so because there'll be a lot of demand for that token, DeFi. So the share tokens, I believe in the white paper we listed, there's going to be a total of 100,000 share tokens before the end of the emissions. So if a large portion of those are locked up, that kind of creates a little bit of price stability on the token. Um, and then in terms of like then bringing on the Blaze protocol, then the GD Fire token's getting you know you're getting payouts um, for the original Spark protocol. Then you start getting collecting also a portion of the fees for Blaze protocol, and then eventually when the Ignite protocol comes on as well, you'll be drawing from three separate areas. So we think that we can create one of, if not the most attractive governance tokens in DeFi by doing it that way. Yeah, there is. There's a diagram. If you go to the announcements and then go into the article, um, that's called Build DeFIRE. Um, there is a diagram in there that shows you the different protocols. Uh, I wish I were almost done now. I don't know if it's worth sharing my screen right now, but I can send you that later on if you want to have. I can get you just the screenshot of that diagram. But it is in the article, and the three different protocols are in purple, and then it's all color uh, coded, and it's in there. So you can find it there, and then if you want to share with other people, you can do that way. And I can also get you just an individual PDF. Great, yeah, definitely shoot me a DM. Um, and looks like we're basically down to the last 2 minutes. So um, appreciate you dropping in, and thanks everybody that contributed. Um, Super excited to keep having these conversations. I think as we grow, it's going to be a really fun community. I'm having just like the best time developing things right now. And yeah, until next time, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign out here in a second, unless anybody has any last questions. Okay, cool. Yeah, thanks a lot again. Appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time.